Hello friends, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome to my channel. My name is Jackie, and let's get started. For DIY number 1, I'm going to begin by using one of these galvanized plaques from the Dollar Tree. This one is in the sign shape. I don't know really how to describe this one. It's like a sign, yeah. And I'm going to go in with some of the Mod Podge and the matte, and I'm going to give it a nice good coat on this whole piece. And then I'm just going to set this aside for a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to take this craft fabric that I found at the Dollar Tree. I actually found it in the summertime, and it's part of their summer line. But when I saw the red and white, I thought, I don't know, it looks like peppermint to me. Anyway, I'm going to use this for this DIY. So I'm going to take my scissors and make a little notch right here. And instead of cutting, I'm just going to tear this fabric like this. And then I'll just continue this process until I get the piece that I need. Kind of guesstimate, make another little notch, and tear some more. And then try to get the width. And the lines make it super easy. Tear that piece until I just get my piece that I'm going to use. Now I'm going to take my plaque and place my piece of fabric on top and kind of smooth it out. Get it nice and adhered. And now I'll add some more of the Mod Podge just to give it a nice coat on top. Allow this to dry. Here it is, nice and dry. Now I'm going to take my detail scissors to snip off the excess fabric. I'm just going to take my time and go around and cut this out. Now here I decided to take some puffy paint from the Dollar Tree and make a little border around the edges, make some little scallops, but it's hard to see because of the stripes on the fabric, so I ended up going to plan B after I got done with this and then allowed this to dry. But I did just set this aside, allow this to dry. In the meantime, I'm taking these two little gingies I got from the Dollar Tree a couple years ago. I haven't seen them since, but hopefully they'll bring back something cute like this again. And these are just these silicone gingy ornaments, and I'm just removing the little hangers. We won't be needing these at all. And I'm just going to take the backs, flip them over, and I'm going to take some more of this fabric. I'm just going to cut a few pieces, nothing really fancy, just some little pieces, little remnant pieces, because I want to adhere some magnets to the back of these little gingies, but I know since they are silicone, it's not going to work. You have to add something to it. So I'm going to add just these little pieces of fabric, and this will help hold the gingies, and then the magnets will be able to be adhered, if that makes sense. But if you've ever worked with silicone, you know that adhesives, especially hot glue, have a difficult time with them. You have to use E6000, which this is Fix-All, which is almost similar, or super glue. So here I'm just going to allow these to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to take some of the black puffy paint, and I'm just going to very carefully write on here, on this little banner, I'm going to write fresh on him, and then on her I'll write baked. So it'll say fresh baked, because this is a little bakery sign. I'm just going to write it real quick. Set this aside. Here they are, nice and dry. Now here are my magnets. The ones I'm going to use are from the Dollar Tree. I'm just going to use 2 of these. They're not the greatest as far as magnetic, but I have them, so I'm going to go ahead and use them. I do end up using some of my super magnets that I always get from Amazon. I'll use those in a little bit. You'll see them. But for now, I'm going to use these regular magnetic ones for these ornaments that I'm going to just use on my sign. So I placed the magnets first because sometimes they kind of want to flip over. So I want to get that position done. And then I added the glue. And look, they're holding really well. Then I'm going to take my rickrack. Here's my plan B as far as the edges, the border. And I'm going to take this rickrack and I'm going to cut it in sections. That way I don't have to fight the glue too much, because I ran out of my Beacon Fabric Tech fabric glue, and I love that stuff for this kind of trim. So I need to get some more of that. But for now, I'm just going to use the hot glue, but I'm having to cut this rickrack in order to take care of that. So here I'm just going to speed this up a little bit to show you guys how I placed everything on this plaque. So I just followed the line with some hot glue and then place the rickrack in place, holding it down till the hot glue set, and just going around till I have it all the way to the other side. And now I think this came out a little bit better. You can see the line more profound, better than the puffy paint. The puffy paint was kind of getting lost, I think. So here I just trimmed off all the edges that were sticking up. Here's a couple little more edges I need to trim. Gotta get it nice and even until I'm happy with it. Okay, so now here I'm taking some of this ribbon. I got this ribbon from Dollar General. It's a wired, thin, red burlap ribbon. And it's really, really nice. So I just wrapped it around my hand a good 4 times or so. And I'm just going to wrap the tail around real nice and tight. And since it has wire and it's a thin ribbon, this works really, really well to make, or should I say, to create the bow shape. So here I'm just going to add a little dab of glue to kind of secure it in place. And then once that glue sets, I'll trim off the excess. And now I'll open up the loops. It should have 2 or 3 loops. It'll just look really, really cute, like a little bow, almost like a bow tie, but prettier, I think. So I'm pretty happy with it. So I'm just going to add some glue and place it on the very top in the middle like this. And now for extra embellishments, I'm going to take some of these resin baked little goodies that I had in my stash. And here are my super magnets that I get from Amazon. This one has a ton of different sizes, but I'm just going to use the teeny tiny ones. And when I say super, they are super. So I'm just going to add a little dab of my Fix-All adhesive and placing the magnet on this little donut piece. And then I do the rest, and I have to put them kind of far from each other because they just want to magnetize and get stuck to each other. But here they are ready to go. I'm just going to place them on my plaque. And since they are magnetized, I can move them around if I want. I can even allow my grandkids, they are older. I don't have to worry about them sticking stuff in their mouths. And I'm just going to place these on here like a little bakery. And that is it. And this is how it looks, and a closer look at the final reveal. For DIY number 2, I'm going to take this fall plaque that I found at the Dollar Tree this year. It was $1.50. I especially liked it because of the border. I thought it was kind of cool. So I'm just going to remove this jute twine. We're not going to need it. So take that off. And then for the inside, I'm going to take my finger sander, and I'm just going to take some muscle and sand off all this glitter, because some of these words have very heavy glitter. The welcome, and then the bottom here, I forget what it said, but yeah, I just removed it all with my finger sander and a lot of muscle. A lot of muscle. Now I'm taking my little ladybug vacuum cleaner and just vacuum everything up. That way I don't make a big mess everywhere. And this worked great. So now that it's nice and clean and ready to be painted, I'm going to go in with my Waverly chalk paint in the color ink to give it a full coat to help hide all the writing. And then I'm going to give it a light coat of the nutmeg brown to make it look like a wood grain effect. Now I'll set that aside, and I'm going to take 2 of these gingies from the Dollar Tree, and I've used them before many, many times. I'm going to remove these embellishments, and I'm going to go in with the nutmeg brown, give them a full coat, front side and back side. And while the paint is still damp, I'm just going to take some of this sand and sprinkle it everywhere. Try to sprinkle it evenly as best I can. And you could probably use salt for this if you want, or maybe even baking soda, yeah. But I'm just going to cover up the whole area on these 2 gingies, just the fronts. I'm not going to do the backs. Backs, I'm going to leave them flat like normal. These will be textured. So now I'm taking a brush and kind of spreading it all around more evenly. At this point, my paint was pretty much drying, but that's okay. We're going to do another coat of the paint. So once I get this to where I'm pretty happy with it being spread around, I'm going to take some more of the nutmeg brown and give it another coat. And now with my paintbrush, I'm just going to dab. That way I don't move my sand much. Now here I've added another layer of sand. And I actually repeat this, I think about 3 times. I did paint, then sand, then paint, then sand, then paint. And then I think that was the last layer. So this should be the last layer here. Now here they are. Look at that texture. It's hard to see, but it's really, really nice. Looks more like gingerbread maybe. Okay, so now I'm going to start embellishing my little people, my little gingies. I'm going to take some of this jute twine and I'm going to create them to hold a banner each. Now I went back and forth on what kind of banner I wanted to make. I knew I wanted to use this fabric here that I had pieces of, and I'm just going to snip little notches and then tear and rip the fabric like this. And this just gives it a more like rustic edge on them. This last one was a little harder to tear, so I made the notch a little bit bigger, and then finally that tore just fine. So here I'm just going to cut these in half. They're just a little too long. So I'm going to cut them in half, and then I'm going to take these pieces and tie them to this piece of jute twine. And so I'll do both of these pieces of jute twine. I'll tie these pieces of fabric onto them just to make it look like a banner. And I do this to both. And now I'm going to add some more embellishments to these. I'm going to add these teeny tiny peppermints that I had in my stash. I'm just going to add some hot glue and place them on the jute twine itself right here. And then I'll do another. So in between my tied fabrics, I'll add these little peppermints. They're teeny tiny ones. They're not as big as the ones I usually use for my projects. These are smaller. So right here. Now I'm going to go ahead and attach these banners onto their little hands. But first I'm going to make some little knots on the ends of the jute twine. That way the glue has something a little bit better to hold on to. So a little dab of glue and then place the knot in there. And then do that the same thing to the other side. Place the knot inside. Maybe I should have made this banner a little bit longer, but that's okay. This still works. And then press down the little knots. That way they're nice and secure on there. And then I do another peppermint where the knots are. That way you don't really see the knots. And this just kind of goes with the flow of the whole look. So now I do the same thing to the other one. Same exact thing. Here's my last little peppermint in place. So now I'm going to take some rickrack and I'm going to go around the edge of their heads to give it that decorative look. Instead of using the puffy paint, I want to use the rickrack. I think the rickrack is super adorable for gingerbread projects. So here I'm just cutting two, one for one and one for the other. And I'm going to go around with the hot glue real gently, thin line, and then trying to work quickly. Press down, hold it, and then go around, kind of maneuver it with my fingers and go around quickly. And if the glue happens to dry on you or cool down on you, you can always warm it up with the heat gun. Like here, I'm going to go ahead and do that because it started to cool down on me. My home is pretty cold during the summer because we have the AC on and it stays cold in here. So I think that sure didn't help the hot glue. But this worked. A little heat gun, or if you don't have a heat gun, hair dryer works too. So now I'm going to snip off the ends. And then I'll do the same thing to the other gingy in the same manner. And then snip these off as well. Don't really want them to be too long. And like this. So now we're going to decorate them a little bit more. I'm going to take two more pieces of this fabric and some of the fibers, the strands that came off of them. And I'm going to create a little bow. And I'm using the strands to tie it tight. So I'm going to make sure it's nice and tight and make a good double knot to secure it. So here I'm just tying it once, pulling it, and then tying it again. And these strands are strong, so they're not going to fall apart. They're like a polyester fabric. So here I'm pretty happy with that. So now I'm just going to take a little dab of glue and I'm going to place this one on his little bow tie. This will be for like a little bow tie right here. Look how adorable. And then I do the same thing for her, but hers will go on her head. So just a little dab of glue, same as the boy, and then placing that one on her head. A little bow like that. Just a little messy bow, a little mini messy bow. Okay, so now I'm going to take some more of these little peppermints. I'm going to add one to the middle of her bow and one to the middle of his bow tie right here. Okay, so now I was debating whether to leave them alone or start embellishing some more, but I decided to add some more of the rickrack. I'm going to add these little pieces to their feet. I think that gives it a complete look. And I'm just going to use the hot glue and a little line of hot glue and pressing it down like this. And I do this to both. And now I'll just trim off the little ends that are sticking up because they don't look cute. Gotta make it look cute. So now I decided to put a face on them. And I'm just going to go in with the puffy paint and I'm just going to do something very simple. I'm just going to do two little eyes and a little smile and a little nose. And that's it. Real simple. Two little eyes, a little nose, and a little smile. And I am taking the red puffy paint to give them some cheeks. Right on the little cheekies. Like this. And then for her, I decided she needed something on her neck. So I'm giving her like a little collar, like a little choker. And I'm just going to do a couple little wiggly lines and a couple little scallop lines and straight line and something like that. Then just add a little tiny bow made out of jute twine And then that is it for this one. I think I'm going to be done. And I'm ready to attach these to my plaque. So here is my plaque, nice and dry. Now here I'm trying to figure out placement because I want this to look like a tray of cookies. And I had this ornament that looks like a heart gingerbread cookie. I'm going to place this on the very top in the middle. Try to figure out where the center is. And then place these in this order here, in this placement. Add hot glue just where I know it's going to attach, right here. Press them down. And that is it for this one. This is how it looks, and a closer look at the final reveal. For your DIY number 3, I'm going to take this little caddy that I got from the Dollar Tree. I like the red color. It's perfect for Christmas. I think I got this one 4th of July, so red was popular. I'm going to take some of the rickrack that I have in my stash, and I'm going to add some of this to the top edge of this caddy. I'm just going to add it with some hot glue. I'll do a little line, put down my rickrack, and then do another line of hot glue and pull the rickrack across right here on the top. Press everything down, and I'll just continue this same process until I get to the other side. Doesn't take long. It's a two-handed little trick, but it goes quick. I don't like to cut my rickrack unless I know how much I'm going to use. I just have to know for sure. Then I cut it, and I went ahead and finished off the rest. Another little line of hot glue. Trying to work quickly before my glue sets. Really don't want to put the heat gun on this plastic. Might melt it, you never know. So here I am at the very end, looking great. Snip off any pieces that are sticking up, and I'm very happy with it. So now I'm going to place this on its back. I want this to be the front, and I'm just going to go in with some of these pieces that I had in my stash. These 2 little gingies were from the Dollar Tree. I think I have maybe 1 more left, or maybe 2 more left. I don't know. I have to look at my stash. And then one of these giant peppermints from Amazon. And then one of these little resin bows that I made in one of my Christmas in July videos. Made these out of resin and paint. So I'll place that right here. And now I'm going to take some of these red kitchen utensils that I got from the Dollar Tree. And I love this red. It's so vibrant. And I'm removing all of these tags and labels. And I'm going to get ready to do a little bit of embellishing on these cooking tools. Or should I say utensils. And I'm going to use some of the little gingies, some of the little peppermints, and these little dollops of faux frosting that I made in another video. And I'm going to begin with this spoon, and I'm just going to add a nice glob of hot glue, and I'm going to add one of these little puffs. I had extra spackle in my piping bag, and I just piped it on a piece of parchment paper, allowed it to dry, and then place them in my little container. It was as simple as that. And here I'm just going to add one of these little gingies. I got these from Amazon. They're made out of resin. And then for this spatula, I'm going to use one of my very last Dollar Tree wooden gingerbreads. And for this spatula, I'm going to use the puffy paint to make it look like there's frosting or icing dripping after it was used. Give it that look. And I'm going to use a craft clamp to hold it up right. That way it'll dry and it won't spill everywhere. Now this other brush, I decided not to use it. So we'll just put that away. So now I'm going to allow all this to set well. Put this on the side. Then now I'm going to start decorating my little caddy. I'm going to add my utensils in here and some florals. And then I got this little set from Target. It's just like a toy set of a rolling pin. It is wood. And then some little cookie cutters. So I'm going to take the crimson paint from Waverly, and I'm going to paint the handles of this rolling pin like this. And I'll do both sides. Here it is, nice and dry. Now for these cookie cutters, I wanted to have them stand up, so I figured I'll utilize these picks from my florals and just a little bit of hot glue and turn them into some cookie cutter picks. That way I can place them in my caddy and they won't sink to the bottom. Now here I'm going to take one more of my plastic peppermints. I'm just going to add it to the handle of the rolling pin just for a little bit more embellishment, because you guys know I'm extra. So just right here. And I'm going to go ahead and take another one of these little puffs, and I'm going to place them on the very tippy top of these cookie cutters because I didn't like that little pick showing. So I just kind of place it on top like that. And then I do this to all 3. Now I had some extra bits of foliage, so I decided to thread those into the picks underneath the cookie cutters. And look at that. It looks like something you might buy at Hobby Lobby. Look at that. So simple. And so I do this to 2 because I only had 2 pieces of this foliage with the hole in it. So I just did this to 2 of them. And now I can put everything in place, make it look really cute. I'll add the spatula when the paint dries. And then that is it for this one. Just a few more pieces of foliage here and there, and a little finagling of things. But I think it came out really, really cute. I love it. Little catty. Here's how it looks, and a closer look at the final reveal. For DIY number 4, I'm going to take this pack of air dry clay from the Dollar Tree. I found it in my stash, and I'm surprised it's still nice and pliable, but it was kind of dry, so I did have to add some water to it. But hey, it worked. It's clay. So I'm going to remove my rings because you guys know that just makes a mess. So here I'm going to go ahead and condition this clay as best I can. Like I mentioned, it is pretty dry. So I placed it on a piece of parchment paper. I did spritz it with some water just to help give it a little moisture, and that helped a lot. And then I rolled it out best I could to about, I don't know, 1/4 inch thickness or so. And then I went ahead and took my cookie cutters that I've used on a few videos, and I just started making some cookies, or should I say clay cookies. And I made 6 of different sizes. Now I'm going to take these gingerbread cookie cutters, and I'm going to cut inside of these rounds, like here. I'm trying to figure out the right size for each of the rounds. And I had a little teeny tiny one that I've used on several videos, so I used that one as well. So I just went ahead and separated the 2. That way they can all dry quickly. Now this one I had a hard time removing, so I'm using the end of my paintbrush to push it out gently. But I'm trying to make these thick so that way they won't fall apart too easily, because the thinner they are, of course, the more fragile they are. But you'll see in a little bit, I had a little tragedy. So that didn't always work either, I guess, because clay is clay. It's going to break sometimes. But here I'm just going to continue to separate these, and that way I can have double cookies, a round one and a gingerbread one as well, like this. Now here are all my cookies, nice and cut. Now I allow this to dry completely. Here they are, nice and dry. You can tell that they are dry. I went ahead and painted them with the nutmeg brown. And at Target, I also found this really cute toy charcuterie board. So I'm going to utilize just the board, put everything else away. Now here's where you're going to see the tragedy. Did you see it? So here I was trying to get this bottle of paint that was above me, and it fell on my cookies, and it totally broke 2 of my cookies. But thank goodness I have extras. So here is my plaster paint after it fell on my cookies. And I'm going to take a chunky chippy brush, and I'm just going to do some dry brushing on this board. It had a little bit of writing, said veggies and sweets, because it's supposed to be a charcuterie board. But I just went ahead and kind of heavily dry brushed on it to help kind of conceal those words. I really don't need all that writing on my board for this DIY. So here I'm just going to go around and just do, like I said, a nice heavy distressing, dry brushing, what have you. Allow this to dry, and now I'm going to add my little cookies, and I'm just going to place them in this order that I'm kind of thinking I want. Here's my thought process. Thinking, okay, don't want them to all go the same direction, but I am trying to still cover up those words. You guys can't see it, but I can see it. So I'm going to cover them up. Now for some fun embellishing, I'm going to use one of these plastic candy canes. I feel like it needs a candy cane. But maybe this one. The other one's a little too wide on the top. And some of these peppermints, of course. Just place them where I think I want them. I'm still kind of messing with the positioning of all my little gingies. So here I'm just trying to figure it out. I'm so indecisive sometimes. I don't know. I just look at this and I just laugh. And then my little puffs, I'll add them to the tops of my peppermints just to make them look sweet and decadent. And then I finally am happy with all this. Then I went ahead and adhered everything with some hot glue. And then here I'm taking this thick kind of rope baker's twine that I got from, I think, Walmart last year at Christmas. And I'm just going to make a knot to make like a hanger. It's just for decor. And then added a bow and add some hot glue and place it on the very tippy top. And then that is it for this one. And I'm pretty happy with the way it looks. This is how it looks, and a closer look at the final reveal. For DIY number 5, I'm going to take one of these toy frying pans from the Dollar Tree. I've had this in my stash for a while, never really did anything with it. And I decided I'm going to make something with it today. Something with the gingerbread theme. So as I'm opening this up and it has burgers and fries, I'm looking at all the pieces and I'm thinking, wait a minute. Okay, I'm going to use a spatula. That's good. The fries, I don't think so. But then the rest of it, I was looking at, I was like, wait a minute, this looks like a pancake. We're going to make pancakes. Or at least one. One works for me. So now I'm going to take my paints in crimson and nutmeg and paint them up. And so I painted the handles and the bottom of the pan and then the little burger bun, which is going to be my mini pancake. So now I'm going to take my puffy paint and I'm just going to go around the middle edge of the bottom of this pan. And I'm just going to make some little scallops like this to get them all done all the way around. I'm going to take the same puffy paint and I'm just going to make some little eyes. And I'm trying to be very careful because the inside paint is still actually wet. So I'm trying to be really, really careful. A little nose and then a mouth. And my puffy paint was starting to run out. So, I was trying to be so careful not to have an air bubble just pop out because that happens. And then I decided to make a little tongue like he's hungry. He's hungry for a pancake. And then I'm going to take some red and give him some cheeks like this. And then I'm going to take the blue and just do his little eyes towards the bottom. Just some little dots. Kind of make it look alive. And then I'm going to carefully turn it around. Mind you, all the paint's still wet under there. I'm going to do a nice glob of glue and I'm going to add my little pancake. Yes, my little smiley face is still doing well. And now I'm going to take the puffy paint, turn the pan over carefully and just do like a little swirl, like the pancake has a little bit of icing. And then some little dots all over the inside of my pan, just for interest, just to make it look cutesy. And the whole time I'm just trying to be very careful with that paint underneath. Oh my goodness. But yeah, looking cute. Okay, here, it's not dry yet, but I'm ready to add my bows. So here is a little bow that I'm going to add to my spatula. It's actually a little longer bow, longer tails. And then a little bow for the very top of the underneath of my pan. And then another bow with hot glue, being very, very careful. Flip it over and put the other bow on the back. So it's double-sided. And here's how it looks, and a closer look at the final reveal. If you're on Instagram, here's my QR code. I invite you to scan it and come follow me on there. I post on there Monday through Fridays, as well as TikTok. Here's my QR code for there. Here is my QR code for Facebook, also Monday through Fridays, as well as my Pinterest. Here's my QR code for there. And here's my Lemonade account as well. And my Threads account. This is my handle, also Monday through Fridays. Here's my Hometalk QR code. I invite you to come scan it. Post on there twice a month. I do have a Facebook crafting group. I invite you to come join us there. And now we're at the final reveal. Let me know what you think and which one is your favorite one. Well, I'd like to take a moment and say thank you for taking time out of your busy day to watch my video. I really, really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun creating for these DIYs. I love the gingerbread theme. You guys know that. It's my thing. And these were so much fun to create. I do hope you enjoyed this video. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up. That would really help my channel to grow. And I would really, really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. And if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. A lot more is coming. And until my next video, stay healthy, safe, and strong, and have a great, great day. Bye-bye.